Samuel here. How are you? Well, let me sit down. We've actually checked out what's going to work here. And so that's why I'm sitting here in this situation. It should work out. Yeah, it's pretty good. As good as it gets. Whatever you need. I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. That's a good idea. I've got all kinds of things to do, none of which have to be done at this moment. Sure. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That happens. The technology is great when it works. I certainly can. As long as you're not asking me to say anything intelligent, we're doing well. Good. Makes the conversation a lot easier. Sure, Jerry with a J, Jerry, Neil apostrophe, capital N-E-I-L-L. I'm an attorney in Burlington, Vermont. Historically, I was the U.S. Attorney for the District of Vermont at one time before going into private practice. But came onto it because when the cardinal law in Boston basically said to victims, I don't believe you, we're not going to do anything, it brought a lot of people out who didn't feel that they could come forward. So people began to come forward to me. I brought cases on their behalf, and amongst those were so many people who had been molested by Father Paquette. At least that. At least that. Well, it wasn't until 2002 that we actually were able to get our hands on the files of the Diocese of Burlington. And once we got our hands on the files of the Diocese of Burlington, files they never thought we'd ever see, we got Father Paquette's personnel file. When you read his personnel file, and as someone who grew up a Catholic, it makes my blood boil. Because of what they knew about this horrid man and how they let him come to Vermont and abuse children here. One of the things that's clear throughout the country, and it's clear here in the Diocese of Burlington, is that the bishops cared immensely about the priests and they cared nothing about the children. And so what you see in the history, you see this with Paquette, you see it going back into the 1960s when he was with the diocese in Massachusetts. It says they caught abusing children, give it another chance, give it another chance, give it another chance, allowed to go to another diocese, abuses children there multiple times. Only when scandal is the touchstone as far as the church is concerned becomes such that they have no choice do they actually go ahead and remove him from a given diocese. Father Paquette molested, as far as I can see, literally every boy he could get his hands on. Many of the priests who abused children, look for kids who had an absent father, had some problems in the household, were being abused in some respect. Father Paquette didn't. He didn't care who the parents were or what the circumstances were. He would grab onto boys and molest them. I have to remember the era when this was. This was an era when we were going, their parents didn't know about the abuse. And destroys their lives. Alcoholism, abuse, inability to trust people, jobs, every issue you can imagine that affects somebody on the basis of psychiatric problems. There's a list of about a dozen different things. At any given instance, when someone sat down with me, I expected to see 3 or 4 of those show up. It changed lives, destroyed lives. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Try that again, please. Sure, there were at least 3 different psychiatrists he saw. He saw one in Massachusetts, he saw at least one in the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend, and he saw one here in Vermont. And all of them, in effect, gave the bishop some level of cover, if you will, for what was happening, by suggesting that it was feasible on some level to put him back into a situation where he would be in a parish. But the bishops, a lot of them were Catholic, and they deferred then to the bishops. You can see this in some of the letters they write, how they defer to the bishops in terms of whatever it is the bishops want to do, rather than having any concern for the children. There's no question this is representative of what was happening all over. I belong to groups who represent people who were child sex abuse survivors. And all the people we talked to, it's the same story. It's the same in terms of the Catholic bishops. It's the same in terms of the impact that it had upon those who were molested. It's the same everywhere along the way. The priest was at such a high level, that was concerned, and the children were of no concern. If we went through, for example, the document for the Diocese of Burlington, and we did, and you went through and you listed the number of instances in which there was any expression of concern for the children, there were none. But if you went through and looked for the word scandal, you would see in there numerous instances where there was concern expressed by the bishops or some of those in their administration for scandal and the need to move a priest or take some other action because of a concern for scandal. That was the primary motivator for bishops moving someone or taking them out of service, was the concern that the behavior was scandalous and would cause problems for the diocese on the basis of scandal, not any concern for the children. Because they didn't care about the children. They genuinely didn't. It's hard to say and to believe, but they really didn't care. They cared about the priests. The priests were, as taught through Catholicism, God's representative on earth. And so as a consequence of that, they were willing to, time after time, take a chance on the priests. They didn't perceive, I think, that what these priests were doing was such a horrible crime that they needed to do anything about it. They were willing to keep giving the priest chance after chance after chance. But that's what happened with Father Paquette in at least 3 dioceses. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are very reliable studies that show that approximately 11% of priests in the time frame we're talking about, the 60s to the early 80s, were molesting children. So if you just take a look at the number of priests you have and apply 11% to it, and you're likely to have that many priests who were abusing children in that time frame. There were a couple of different studies. One was the John Jay College of Criminal Justice study that showed that approximately 11% of those who were priests in this time frame were molesting children. There's also a man, very well known, former monk, who became a psychologist by the name of Richard Sype, who died within the last couple of weeks. He's a wonderful man. He did his own study, completely independent. He came up with roughly the same percentage of it. He was involved in counseling priests and the likes of that, which roughly was about 11% of those who were in the priesthood at that time were molesting children. Yes, easily. The numbers, you can't fathom the numbers until you have the records, as for example, we have from the Diocese of Burlington, and you see the huge number of priests they were aware were molesting children, and you compare it with the number of priests they had in the diocese at the time. Look at Boston. You look at almost any of these. Look at Pennsylvania. You see 10 or 11% easily. I would be entirely speculative to try to determine what the numbers are like now. I think that they probably are very small, and the reason I say that are twofold. One is because the public eye has been focused upon it. Such things as the Pennsylvania grand jury report, such things as other investigations, the civil cases that have been brought. Parents used to unhesitatingly entrust their children to priests and to other people. They don't do that anymore. They've learned that you can't trust people in the way that you would like to be able to do it. So you have that, and you also have the National Council of Catholic Bishops, for the most part, have made a genuine effort to try to root out the priests who are molesting children. So I think probably the percentage is quite low. It really varies. For some, it doesn't have much influence, but for most of them, it creates great destruction in their lives. Marriages, jobs, alcoholism, substance abuse, lack of respect for authority, many of them end up in jail, the full panoply of problems that can occur to someone who has been mistreated horribly by someone that they trusted, because the trust was the key ingredient. The only thing I would say is if you take a look through the documents that we obtained from the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend, you will see that the diocese there knew specifically on 3 occasions that Father Paquette had been caught molesting children and still, except for scandal, would have given him another chance. I don't know whether more will be named or not. I mean, certainly, for example, the diocese here in Burlington, the bishop will not publish the names of those who have been credibly accused, that's just credibly accused of molesting children. So whether more names will be forthcoming or not, good question. There certainly are many more than 18. Some of them probably are dead. Well, that's one case, but overall we recovered something over $30 million for the individuals who were molested. They weren't exclusively Paquette victims or survivors, but there were over $30 million that we recovered just in the small state of Vermont. That's okay. There are other important things going on today. You're welcome. Take care. Bye now.